Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast. This is our Halloween Round Robin edition. I'm Ralph Quartucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy as Jerry Garcia.
I'm Debbie Murphy.
I'm John Han Solo Quartucci.
Oh, I didn't mention I'm Fred Mercury.
No one would get that, Ralph. No one was going to get that.
I'm Freddie Mercury's older cousin.
That's right. The bald cousin.
Who didn't die and he's bald.
Right.
And introducing our new Millennial quadrant. Who's that down there?
I'm Mario, also known as Dylan Quartucci.
Hey,
Nice.
Dylan, welcome to the show.
Are you related to one of these guys?
I'm not, just a coincidence.
It's a weird coincidence.
How do you pronounce the last name?
Quartucci.
He's such a liar.
Dylan, you're the man. You are the man.
A lot of Quatrucci's in Wisconsin. Turns out.
Whatever.
So, okay. All right. So
right.
tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to forego our what'd you watch this week. I'm sorry, because we got pressure. So I got time pressure. We'll do that next week. We've also lost one Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother podcaster, Drew Gould, has retired for a little while. He may come back, just like Wojo and Brad.
The door's always open.
Always open. We've added Dylan. We need some more millennial representation, so this is fun. And Chris Coker, unfortunately, couldn't make it tonight because he had
what's Manila representation? I don't know what that is. Millennial. I'm sorry.
If we're going to stop every time you and I mispronounce something, this show
excuse
will
me.
never get
I think you mispronounced that.
Okay, I'm going to stop you every time then. All right.
Fine. Let's do it.
Han Solo.
I'm giving Debbie a little juice here.
Guido short. No, Guido. Who shot first? Guido. All right.
Guido always shoots first.
Guido always shoots first.
One of them always.
And what I was going to say is
Guido.
And Chris Coker couldn't make it. He was going to do It Follows, which I really wanted to talk about. And
Yeah.
Chris is really upset, and we'll do it next time. He wanted to talk about Dune, the film, for what you watch. But
as opposed
anyway,
to doing the thing on the beach.
As
That's
opposed
right.
to Dune, the old crappy one.
I know
that was
Debbie
a bad
said.
one.
I
That
know
was a bad
Debbie
one.
said try to be funny, but guys, just try to be funny, okay? Don't throw a joke at every right. I mean, I guess they're throwing everything at the thing. All right.
I'm sorry, Ralph. I couldn't hear you because I was watching the TV behind you. Say that again,
Nice.
please.
That is
I was so entranced
that
by
is my
the
friend.
vision of you back there.
Dylan, this is how it goes. So, all right. So what we're going to do tonight is each one of us has brought a horror film that we tend to like to watch at Halloween. Since Dylan is our guest,
Yes.
our millennial guest, I think we'll start with Dylan. Get the nerves right out of the way, Dylan. You don't have to be nervous.
Mario.
What's the film you brought to the table?
I did a Trick or Treat. I changed it from the Scream because you told me it was too basic.
I didn't say it was too basic. I thought it
You
was a
said,
great choice.
I think you said something like classic millennial, like choosing something that's like really obvious. So I switched it.
I might have said that. It's not very
So you
deep.
talked him out of his original
But let me
choice.
ask you this: what was
He
Wes?
did. He
What?
did.
Tell
That's
me a
wrong.
movie. Answer me one question. Name another movie Wes Craven directed. Dylan.
Scream 2.
I don't. Did he do Scream 2?
Yeah, didn't he do
Okay.
Nightmare on Elm Street?
And what else?
Shocker.
Didn't he do Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Or was that
No,
Toby
Hooper.
Toby
Hooper.
Hooper. Last
Yeah.
House on the Left. Last House on the Left.
Yeah, he also did.
You proved my point. But okay, what film did you bring instead of Scream?
Dylan, in the future, as you do more of these, you pick the movie you want. Okay, don't listen to Ralph.
He
all right?
picked Scream. He picked Scream. That was fine. Go ahead.
It's called Trick or Treat.
Oh, that's
didn't-
actually the movie. I thought you were being.
I never heard of that.
Me neither.
None of you guys. Oh, really? Wow.
The recent one?
It was 2007, I think.
Yeah, to me, that's recent.
Why don't you
Never
give us
heard
a
of it.
synopsis?
Yeah.
Synopsis.
So it's kind of all about it's like a horror movie that's based on like Halloween traditions. So if you break a tradition, you end up getting killed.
By who or what?
It runs you through the story of this bus that was full of special education students and a bus driver, and it was basically driven off a cliff and they all died. And then this boy named Sam comes back and haunts like anybody who breaks Halloween traditions.
Was he one of the special children?
He was, I believe.
You couldn't make that film now, could we?
I don't think it was honestly very un-PC from like the first opening scene to the end. Like there was a lot of un-PC things. But
So he's the one coming back and killing everybody?
Yeah, well it's shot out of order. So the first scene is actually the last scene of the whole movie.
Wow.
Not to completely spoil it.
Oh,
Could you
little
name
Quentin
another
Tarantino.
movie, Dylan? Another movie that maybe does that?
Not off the top of my head. If you're gonna put me on the spot, I don't. Why do you got to do that?
We're just,
Wow,
we're
he's
checking
so
your
welcoming.
movie cred. This is
Dylan, so welcoming.
this
Keep
is
going.
an
Who was anyone in this movie that we would know?
Let me look up the cast. But
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah,
Write
we
that
try to
down
do our
beforehand?
movie prep before the show, Dylan, but that's fine. Whatever.
I actually just
So
watched it.
nobody
about
else
half
is-
an hour
nobody
ago.
else-
Oh, you did? Just watch
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Nobody else has seen this film. I've never seen
I've
it.
never heard
I've
of
seen
it.
it. It's
Oh,
been
you
a
have?
while.
I remember the idea of it.
Yeah.
Sean, do you know anyone who's in it that we would know? The cast? Sean?
No.
Looks like a good cast. Was it scary, Dylan?
It wasn't really scary. Honestly, it was just really weird.
Did you watch it on your phone or on your TV?
I watched it on my TV.
Okay, good.
Well, thank God. I'm a millennial who actually watches it on both sides.
I told you, my son Raphael says, "Hey, I saw Dune." I go, "When did you go to the movie theater?" Oh
On
no,
a
I watch it on
phone.
my iPhone.
What a shame.
What?
What's wrong with that?
These kids
Oh my
don't
God.
even
Scale.
they
All right,
don't even
so-
appreciate being in a movie theater.
Back to Trick or that looks pretty creepy. And it looks like you get a lot of good people. Who directed that? I didn't even see who directed. Anybody see who directed?
Peter K. Toothbrush. No, wait a minute. Michael Dougherty.
Oh, that Michael Dougherty?
Written by Michael Dougherty.
All sorts of things.
So what didn't you like about it, Dylan? Was it just off the wall or what?
It's not that I didn't like it. I was confused for a little bit, and by the end it comes together. But by that point, I was kind of already out of it. So like,
I'm not gonna lie. The last millennial would smoke a little dope before he'd watch movies, and that confused him. But you're good, right?
So you did not like this movie, Dylan?
I didn't. I think honestly, it's more of a nostalgic movie that a lot of people watched when they were growing up. So now they rewatch it and they already kind of know what's coming and they enjoy it because it reminds them of Halloween. But for me, I was just not into it at all watching it for the first time.
So what movie, is there another movie you would have picked if not this one that you liked?
Yeah, I mean, I would have done Scream for sure.
Ah, great choice. Wes Craven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
yeah.
movie. Very scary, too.
Lots of people we know.
And very
Yeah.
referential. It's very homage-y.
A lot of tropes.
A lot of
Yeah.
tropes.
Yeah.
you
Well,
should've
that's a
done that
bummer.
one,
That's a
Dylan. In
bummer you didn't
hindsight-
enjoy that one.
In hindsight, you should have just stuck to your guns and done Scream. But
I know. I listened to someone that I thought I could trust.
Well, he's a
Well,
producer, not a
was-
director.
No, I wasn't wrong, but I thought Trick or Treat, that's a good one too. I mean, nothing wrong.
What's not good if you didn't like it? I mean,
I didn't
Well,
personally like it,
he
but
didn't.
like,
That doesn't.
but
mean
you
nothing.
watched it because of what people told you about it, right? That made you watch it.
I went on Reddit for like a half an hour, and that
Yeah.
was the most recommended one.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Well, so he can't
Wow.
recommend it, but you should see it just to see.
Yeah, you should see
Yeah,
it because
okay.
it's popular. So.
Yeah, it looks like a good cast
You know, I
too.
think you're going to have to get all the way off his back.
Getting off his back is tight.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to go next? John.
Well, so I struggled with this because, as everybody knows, I'm a classic horror film guy. In fact, I've just watched The Invisible Man, The Black Cat, Bride of Frankenstein. I just watched them all last week. I love those movies. I was even going to do Halloween because I just watched a documentary on the making of Halloween that was fantastic. But I went a completely different path. And it might be surprising to people, but this is a movie that's very nostalgic for me. It's 1987's The Monster Squad.
It's good.
Wow,
film.
that is one I did not see.
I
good
love
film.
this movie. It's not there are very scary things in it, but it's more like the Goonies meet the Universal monsters. It's about Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Gill Man. They couldn't call him the creature from the Black Lagoon. They also had to change the characters enough so they weren't replicas of the Universal monsters, but kind of an homage to them. Universal wouldn't allow
Tom
them to do
Noonan
that.
played Frankenstein, right?
Tom Noonan played Frankenstein. In fact, it's a pretty no-name cast other than Tom Noonan. Stephen Macht, you would recognize him, and he did a lot of stuff. You probably wouldn't know his name, but you'd recognize the actor. And another guy named, I think it's John Freeze. He was in Get Shorty. He played one of the henchmen who gets shot by Dennis Farina. But this movie, what I liked about this movie...
and just back up a sec. It was directed, I think, written and directed by Shane Black.
No, it wasn't directed by Shane Black. It was written by Shane Black.
Shane Black.
Co-written.
Oh,
in
this
fact,
seems like something I'd want to see.
Yeah, I
then.
want
Yeah.
to see this.
yeah,
quite
it's okay. It is made for kids,
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But there are very scary things in it. In fact, I would submit that Duncan Rieger, who plays Dracula, is probably one of the scariest Draculas you'll ever see in a movie. And I saw an interview with him, and he's got the classic look with the tuxedo, the bloodshot eyes, but he said he played it not as the undead, but he played Dracula as a sociopath. And it really comes through. In fact, the scariest thing in the movie, there's a little girl in it. They have to find an amulet that will open up a portal to send the monsters back. And they need a virgin to read an incantation to open the portal. So the whole movie is up to this point where one of the kids' sister is going to read from this book, and nothing's happening. And they can't figure out why. Well, all of a sudden you realize she's not a virgin. That's why it's not working. And the only virgin is an 8-year-old girl. So now the 8-year-old girl has to read the incantation. And at some point, Dracula grabs her by the throat, picks her up with bloodshot eyes and fangs bared, says, "Give me the amulet, you bitch!" Like really crazy stuff. But Rick Baker did the makeup. And the makeup's fantastic. The special effects, it wasn't a big budget, but the special effects are fantastic. There are great moments of being scared in this movie, but it's very Goonie-like with the way the kids.
Well, it's about a bunch of kids who see this going on, happening in their town.
Well, they have a club called the Monster Squad,
right? And
Right.
nobody believes that this is
Right.
going on, and it it's like it's a typical thing. But
So
but
the biggest
monsters
line
were
from the
cool.
movie, the werewolf is going after them, and one of them says, "Kick him in the nards." And the kid goes, "Werewolf doesn't have nards." And he kicks him, and the werewolf doubles over and he goes, "The werewolf's got nards." It's great. It's great.
Well,
and
and it's Shane Black. It's Shane,
Shane Black, so the
sensibilities.
dialogue is good. But there are consequences in the movie. It definitely has some scary stuff in it, but it's a fun adventure type movie. Frankenstein, Tom Noonan does a great job of humanizing Frankenstein. But if you've never seen it, definitely see it. Now, I saw it after high school, so I wasn't the same age as the kids in the movie, but it was only 5 years for me after high school. So I was that type of kid that had those clubs, with all my buddies. We had comic books and we did all kinds of goofy stuff like that. So I totally related to it. But yeah, I really recommend it. The Blu-ray's out. It's got a great documentary on it by one of the cast members. It was not a hit when it came out. It didn't do well because The Lost Boys came out at the same time. And that was a much bigger hit than this, but it really found a cult following on video. And they finally released a Blu-ray version of it with, like I said, the great documentary. And it's really become a cult hit that plays at conventions and stuff. So people really do love this movie. If you haven't seen it, take a look. I think
Yeah,
you'll
and
like
again,
it.
you guys, Dylan, Sean, Debbie, you haven't seen this film.
No.
Yeah.
I saw Lost Boys.
Yeah.
I like The
That
Lost
was,
Boys.
Yeah, I
But this
discovered
was
this
to-
I discovered this a few years ago. I actually bought the Laserdisc, and
Yeah.
it's really wild. And the whole, like I said, the Shane Black sensibility keeps it contemporary. And the kids are smartasses. They're not annoying kids. There is some weight to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like John was saying, consequences. The whole scene
Yeah.
at the end in the neighborhood stuff where the parents finally get involved. And
The director, by the way, is Fred Decker. He wrote it and
he's done
directed it.
that name is
I've
familiar.
heard of him. I can't
Yeah,
think of
Frank
what.
yeah,
Decker.
this was something he loved, the Universal monster movies. He loved them, and that's
So did
why
Rick Baker.
well, that's why
I
Rick
just
Baker
heard
was
an
so
interview with him.
he was so thrilled to do this because it was his spin. As much actually, the Gilman suit came out really good. It's not the iconic face from the creature from the Black Lagoon, but it's a really good costume. And the werewolf scene, John Freese plays it really, really well. So yeah, I
Well, and
recommend.
then Tom Noonan ends up like hanging out in the clubhouse, I think.
That's right.
They kind
Well,
of
the little girl.
Right, they humanize Frankenstein
Well, at one
or
point,
the monster, whatever they call
at
him.
one point, the little girl is at the at a lake. So that's where she meets Frankenstein, which is an homage, obviously, to the first movie where he actually threw the girl in. So, they really pay homage to a lot of the Universal movies. Just really well done, well written. And the kids were really good in it. Ralph's right. They were not annoying little kids. And the little girl, from what I read, there was this myth that Duncan Rieger didn't have the bloodshot eyes or the fangs till the very last minute, so she would really scream. So she'd really be shocked by what she saw. Well, I just saw an interview with her, and they were filmed separately. So they filmed her stuff in coverage, then she left, and then they filmed him. So that isn't really what happened. I wanted to believe it because if you see the scene, it's real scary. I mean, it looks like he's going to choke her. I mean, it's really pretty scary, but he was great in it.
Well, this is something we'll definitely watch.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish you brought the Black Cat because that is a gonzo, crazy 30s horror film.
Definitely.
That was actually my second choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, before you go, Dylan, any questions?
No, that was high on the list of movies to watch. So
Monster Squad was?
Yeah, it was,
oh, really?
It was like the number 2 recommended. So I'm kind of upset I didn't watch it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I would think for guys your age who Goonies was big back then, this is sort of plays on that whole thing too. So okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Sean and Debbie, you pick who goes first.
You want to go first, baby?
Yeah, I'll go first because Sean wanted to steal mine
Oh,
because it's so good. I mean, I like you, John. I love that genre. It just reminds me when we were younger, we would go to the drive-in movies just to see a scary movie because then you just got scared and you got close to your date.
Yep.
And it was just so fun to be scared and jump towards each other, whatever.
She gets scared whenever she sees all this hair.
The one movie that what I think the scariest monster movie was Nosferatu.
Oh,
now that face, I mean, that was like, and the way my mother
iconic.
describes it, that was a movie that came out when she was young, right?
yeah. Well, that's
That would be-
30.
well, that
right?
movie came out. What that was it? 1912?
Came out in the 20s.
Yeah.
No, earlier than 20s, wasn't it?
No, it was the 20s.
Well, I guess
It was
my
the 20s?
grandmother then. My grandmother saw it, and then just to see how scary things.
Yeah,
were,
1922.
they were really freaked out by that movie, Nosferatu.
Your mother was scared by the Wolfman.
She was really afraid of the Wolfman. So it's fun to see the generational, through the years, what scares somebody. But the movie I selected was The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Now,
Was it wooden or
you're laughing
couldn't?
at Sean. Did you see that movie?
yes, I saw it.
Jan
Well,
in the pan.
I
Yeah.
saw this movie when I was like maybe 12 or something.
Oh, you
13.
couldn't have been that old. Oh, you may have seen it on TV.
Yeah, I saw it on TV.
Okay, I thought you'd seen it in the movies.
But anyway, it's about a doctor.
All right, what's it about? Let's go.
Okay, it's about a doctor and he's got a girlfriend nurse and they're going to get married and they go off to this cabin in the woods. You got something there?
The Brain That Wouldn't
Yeah,
Die.
the girl in the pan.
It's
The whole movie, the head in the pan.
Yeah, the head in the pan. So her and her would-be, she really wants to get married to this doctor, and he's working on all this new tech stuff,
new serums for like transplants.
and all. Anyway,
Her head pops off.
they go up the mountain and they get in a car. She gets
That was a car accident, right?
Huh?
It was a car accident, right?
Car accident. And
Yeah.
her
Not that you actually saw it.
her
Right.
head gets severed.
She gets decapitated.
Gets this jacket and wraps her head up in the jacket. And
Runs
takes
to
it
the-
to the
Very
lab
believable. It's not.
where it's in the cabin, and he's like hustling with. It's like a football. He's like he's running with this head under his jacket, and that's comical. That's the really funny
I
part.
don't think it was a real head.
Rewatching it and say, what the heck? Is she? So he gets her at home and puts her in a pan where he's been working systematically to do transplants, and something's in the closet. Well, because she's being, I don't want to spoil it, but
Come on. How old is this film?
It's 1962.
Can I ask you this? Steve Martin's movie, The Man with Two Brains, was it based on this film?
no.
Well,
With
it was
Kathleen
it was
Turner?
based on a couple of movies.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great movie, by the way.
Certainly not this.
No.
I mean,
Well, there are elements from it, definitely.
is there really
Yeah.
the brains? Maybe the word brain.
Well, doesn't he try to keep Kathleen
I don't
Turner
see
alive?
any
I don't
other
know. Okay.
similarity.
So, but the real thing he has to do now is find a body for her.
Yeah. So he goes
Makes
looking
sense.
for a body. Now,
And he wants a hot body.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do?
now here's a weird connection.
Why quibble at that stage?
Exactly.
And first off, he goes to a strip joint, and
Well,
okay,
I mean,
so
that makes sense.
watch the movie, and I know you will, and I know you guys will because it's so good. I mean, just the idea, of objectifying
Oh, that
a woman,
sounds
and then
disgusting to me.
Now
Why
she's
would you?
just a head, and you just got to put a body to her.
I
You know
always
what I mean?
objectify him the other way.
It's really weird. It's just a weird concept, like that
All
we
right.
all laugh
Okay.
at because it's a trope, right?
Well,
Disembodied.
Yeah.
Like Crumb, where in the
Oh.
character they pushed the head in the woman into her body so they could just have sex with the body without the
Do you
head.
guys know? Are you familiar with Crumb?
The
He's
movie, the
cartoonist.
guy,
He's a cartoonist.
cartoonist. You
Crumb.
look a
It's
little like
antique.
him.
Yeah,
But he was a cartoonist for National Lampoon,
another play. Yeah,
and in this magazine they had really obscure cartoons. I mean, really not obscure, really weird stuff.
now Debbie, is this film to you what Clute was to Ralph?
I believe so.
This set up your whole sexual identity. That's what Clute did for me. I don't understand.
It's the weird.
It's
just
when the women
one of
fight.
them-
Dylan, have you ever seen
so
Clute?
Now the women.
No.
Yeah.
It explains a lot about me. You should
No
watch
big
it.
loss.
To watch this movie, but then you have to go back to YouTube
Where it's unedited.
unedited because they don't show. And then I'm sure, and we got to do research on it. This edited one, there's probably a better one even because I remember stuff in the bizarre.
You lost me when you said he wrapped her head in his jacket and took her back.
Well,
to
you're
life.
saying they're showing an edited one on TV? That's what they're showing?
We
Yes.
watched it on TV. It didn't have the strippers fighting with their breasts falling on each other.
Yeah, their breasts were.
They only.
Oh, wait a
slightly
second. What's the
fell
name
on
of this movie?
Huh? It was so weird psychologically when I was so young and impressionable.
Try to stay awake, Mario.
Oh, yeah.
And you're the girl, the stripper, and she's acting like really, for a 12. I see this movie as I'm a 12-year-old, right?
at that delicate age.
I don't think.
But you would say, Debbie, you found it scary then. You wouldn't find it scary today watching it, right? I mean, we were
So
laughing
it
the
was
whole time.
Sexually interesting.
Yeah.
The idea of the movie is kind of like bizarre, like.
And that became a trope for movies too. Transplanting the brain, keeping the head alive. They saved Hitler's brain.
Right.
All movies like
what
that.
else were they going to do with it?
Exactly. Although I did read as we're talking, the lead Virginia Leith, the head,
Yeah.
hated the movie,
And
so she wouldn't do any post production, so they had to dub her voice in for some of the dialogue.
That's why her voice sounded idiotic.
She hated it.
But I'll tell you the thing about this movie is they have this one song that sounds like it's at the most dismal, depressing strip club ever. And it's just the film is just so sleazy.
Sleazy.
The doctor going around looking for a body and the way he's, I'm not Mr. Woke. You know what I mean? But I
Obviously.
felt watching this that I was Mr. Woke watching this movie.
This
I
movie
mean,
bothered you?
I was like, he's like leering, like,
Leering. And he's
I
a
mean, he's-
doctor, for Christ's sake. I mean,
Well, remember it's 1962, and if he's
And-
got to put a new body on, you
and
know
he
what I
ain't
mean?
settling for
Let's
less.
go for a little upgrade.
He's going for the upgrade.
Yeah, he's going for the upgrade.
So, do you recommend this film? What's your
yes, I
Oh,
do.
okay.
I really.
Dylan?
I
Write that
really
one down.
Oh, so Debbie, so it
Got
says
homework.
the DVD version boasts an alternative version of the scene where the model poses photographers in a more skimpy, semi-nude negligee.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's
that's different. That's a different scene.
But that's a different.
That's the version we watched. I think we watched it on Tubi. Did not have the strippers fighting, and it didn't have the skimpy or negligee.
The severed head character of Jan is called Jan in the Pan by popular culture.
Yeah, no,
That's
this
awesome.
film
Yeah,
I enjoyed on an entirely different level than when I first saw it.
Yeah.
It's really it's
Well, it's very campy too. I mean, even as a kid, I recognized the campiness of it.
and the characters and their motivations are just odd. But these movies move really fast.
Well, you know what his motivation is? He wants a killer body with that head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, if you can make it work.
Well, there was some ambiguity about him getting married to Jan to begin with. And I'm thinking he's looking for a better body. I mean,
you know what?
Her.
Well, think about it.
I've been reading quite a few.
Eventually, the head will have to go
sexual
too.
looks at this film, like that. A lot. There's a number of critics, I believe, I read, who felt that the doctor was homosexual, and that the creature in the closet was his homosexual tendencies. These people are reading too much.
Yeah, but I was going to say, do you buy that for a second? I mean, really, this cheaply made movie.
This film is so out there that could be it.
Well, they made it into a musical in 2009.
What?
People,
yeah.
Well, I mean, there's
how about that?
This is the problem with
I don't know. I can't imagine it did that well.
I have to admit, this is a flaw for the show, because I wish I had seen the film before you brought it so I could. But there's too many. But now I'll go and watch it. That's fine. But it's kind of a flaw.
I can't believe you've never seen that movie. Yeah, it used to be on Creature Double Feature all the time.
You know what? That image of the girl's head in the pan.
Very iconic.
Is an iconic image.
But so is Rosie Greer, whatever the one with the double head. Him and Ray
Milland.
Ray Milland and the double head. Yeah, okay. But, I mean, it's not a movie I would stop and watch anyway. I would never watch it.
It's terrible, but there's really something.
Well, now listen. Remember the Blue Angel? The Blue Angel, I never would have stopped and watched. But when I watched it,
let's not compare this movie to the Blue Angel.
Well, there's a whole strip club.
I don't know if you'd have cut Marlena Dietrich's head off
and put it in a pan.
Yeah, it might have been more like it.
All right. Well, so
I went with a more traditional choice.
Yeah, what'd you go with?
Much like your son, and I'm saying that because nobody identified whose son he is. And he could be either of you because you both are
the right age. There was some nights.
Yeah, he's probably a lot more like me than like Ralph. That's probably true.
But I will say my choice was, I don't know who's seen this one, because I wanted to pick one that's not an everyday choice as well, is Dead and Buried, 1982's Dead and Buried.
You know what?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Now, the main factor of it were the writers, Ron Shusett and Dan O'Banion, they wrote Alien.
Yeah.
Dan O'Banion wrote
Dark
Return
Star.
of the Living Dead. They wrote a lot of the classic horror cinema of the late 70s, early 80s. They were like the Shiznik of horror. Now, this film starring James Ferrantino, who's mainly like a character actor on television.
He was. I just watched him in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Right?
Yeah,
that's him.
And also, and it had Jack Albertson in it too.
I'm thinking
Chico
Franciscus.
This was his last role. He was dying while he was making the film.
What year was? I'm sorry, Sean. You say what year?
Terrific
What year?
As the undertaker / coroner of this small community. Here's the plot. There's a nice little seaside New England community. Seems to be very friendly. But all the visitors that come get killed by the townspeople, a number of townspeople, who all take their photographs as they're killing them. And then the people end up turning up later living in the town. And James Ferrantino is the sheriff. He's trying to solve these murders. And he has a weird, troubled relationship with his wife, who may be fooling around on him. And it's just, it's a murder mystery. It's also a gore fest. This is from the 80s. There are breasts right in the first major scene.
Ralph will check that out. Yep, I got to check out that movie.
Yeah, so so there are breasts early on. So that really gives away the time period of the movie. Between 75 and 87 or so, you had to have those breasts in the first 5 minutes. And it's he's the sheriff trying to figure it out, and coroner, he's trying to get information, about these dead people, trying to figure out who's killing them and why, and is it more than one person? And then he's beginning to fear that his wife, might have been sleeping with one of the victims and somehow involved. Yeah, so it's a mystery.
Robert Englund is in there too.
Yeah, this is one of an early role for the guy who would later play Freddy. Yeah, and but it's a great cast. It is gory. I mean, there's one death in particular where there's a guy who's like been burned to death. And he's in the hospital. He's like completely bandaged up. He only has one eye out in his mouth. and then somebody kills him by sticking a big needle into his eye. That, that
awesome.
is still hard to watch.
So, Sean, would you call this movie scary or gory? Because there is a difference.
It's scary. Well, what it is it's a great mystery. The first mystery, I think you'll figure out. But the second, but then it goes one layer more, and that should come as a surprise to people who haven't seen it.
Dylan, did you write this one down? Dead and Buried.
Did you rewatch it prior to the show, or just?
Oh yeah, I rewatched it a couple times. I enjoy the movie, and it's shot really dark. It's got a really good look. The music is is an odd choice, but really, it begins with like this classical piece that they revisit later. It wasn't. It was by the composer of the film. So it's really odd. Debbie left because they put a child in jeopardy. I won't say whether the kid dies, but she doesn't like films where they kill kids.
So the kid did get killed. Okay, you gave that away.
So I didn't say the kid got killed.
I know what you mean, Deb. I don't want to see that.
So it's dark. Albertson is a lot of fun in it. He's like
But wait, John had no problem with Dracula holding up an 8-year-old girl with bloody eyes and screaming, "Bitch!" That was okay.
He didn't kill her, Ralph. She was the hero of the piece.
I think this was a little boy.
I just want to get that straight.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Mother? They tore that baby up. Okay, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. So I would, if you like 80s cinema, to me, the best 3 decades for horror are 30s, the 70s, and the 80s.
Yeah.
Al may like this one. There's a certain transgressive.
Yeah, this might be one that he would like. Uncle Al would definitely.
They do kill a child.
And he's a big Freddy fan too. So Freddy came out in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
All that
late 80s.
Nightmare. By the way, directed by Wes Craven, Dylan.
So I do recommend this film. It's one that deserves a lot more attention.
Never heard of it.
Here's the thing. If you remember, I brought Phantasm to the podcast. Right. Nobody liked it. If you didn't, I can understand that. I think people that wouldn't necessarily like Phantasm will find this film, if only for the mystery aspects of it, more entertaining, more interesting.
Well, it's a little like Dylan's Trick or Treat, right? I mean, that came out, there's, Phantasm is a whole nother wacky.
There's like 5 of them now.
Yeah, I know. But the first one with the ball and all, I know they all have the ball, but that's where it started. This one, I've never heard of it, but it's got the legend Dame Franciscus in there, who was also in Grizzly. Did you ever see Grizzly? I think he played the main guy in that too.
He knew.
Or was that the other guy? I don't know.
He was Dr. Nick Toscani on the Colbys.
The Colbys. But the 80s definitely has a slew of horror crap. Not crap, but this kind of stuff. So
Evil Dead movies.
Evil Dead.
Oh, the splatter movies. They were all, Freddy, Friday the 13th. Halloween's the one that started it all in the 70s, but
yeah, that's 78.
Yeah. But that's where it all started.
I don't know if you guys know this,
really
but
terrific.
If you saw Scream,
yeah,
a lot of these films are kind of not talked about, but homages are brought up in Scream. If only we had talked about that tonight, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we would have brought
all
Friday
connective
the 13th
tissues.
Part 4 here.
Why part 4?
The jokes about
that's where Friday the 13th. Isn't that when Jason? I don't know. I just saw Halloween Kills, and I'm not.
Did
too
you
happy.
like it?
No, but I guess I got to wait for the third one. I didn't know it was a trilogy.
You know what? The first one is so friggin' good, and it still is good.
Yeah, I know, but forget that.
Still scary.
But they're rebooting it, so you can't keep doing that. It's
here's what they did. They accepted the first film,
right,
for this reboot, and then it's like they jumped all over.
Right.
And the one that they made 2 years ago
was great.
It was great, and it was like none of the other films.
That's right.
Existed.
Right.
These were direct sequels to the original movie.
Right.
They skip all the
this
other
one's
ones.
the same night as the first one.
Right.
And then there's going to be the third film.
And they had cast members from the original.
Oh yeah.
But
this one was really disappointing.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take us off.
That's all right, Ralph. Ralph, what was your pick, Ralph?
Well, I went a little more mainstream, but I don't think anyone's seen this film either. I went with Exorcist 3.
Oh,
which is
I
really
did not see that one.
I got to admit, I heard it's good, but that one I skipped.
It's
'Cause
fantastic.
2 was so bad.
Okay, 2 was The Heretic was horrible, right?
Richard Burton was in that, right?
Richard Burton, right? Linda Blair, obviously.
Right.
So this is Exorcist 3, came out in 1990. directed and written by William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original Exorcist.
Right.
The author of The Exorcist, screenwriter on The Exorcist, wrote and directed this one. This is a direct pickup from the other one. So George C. Scott plays Lee J. Cobb's detective that was in the original film, if you remember. And he brings back Jason Miller. He brings back some of the characters from the first one. Obviously, Linda Blair's not in this one. And so George C. Scott, Brad Dourif plays the Gemini Killer. So the synopsis of the story is there's a serial killer in D.C. And what happens is he kills people and he takes all their blood, literally drains all their blood. At the same time, in the psychiatric hospital, they have this patient X who is locked up in a padded room. And throughout the story, you realize that patient X is actually the original demon from Exorcist, the first Exorcist, who's now possessing this patient X, possessing Brad Dourif. So the way the movie is shot is George C. Scott's trying to solve the murder like he was in the original. George C. Scott is great in this film. He's playing it really weird, but powerful. And Ed Flanders plays his priest friend. And William Peter Blatty is quite religious. There's a lot of religious themes going on in this film. And that comes out through all kinds of conversations that George C. Scott's having with his friend Ed Flanders, who's a priest. They go to It's a Wonderful Life together. George C. Scott is bitter about life. He's watching. He can't believe how horrible these crimes are and what's going on. Well, it turns out that patient X, like I said, is possessed by the demon. So what's happening is Brad Dourif is playing the manifestation of this demon. So he has these scenes in these padded rooms where it's crossed between Brad Dourif and then Jason Miller comes back as, the priest that jumps off out the balcony onto the Georgetown, stairway there.
That's right, he died.
He died, but he's coming back in this. And it turns out that he is now, the demon has captured that guy's soul because he shook her and said, take me, take me. Well, he's actually in the body of this guy in this insane asylum. And it's just one of the creepiest films, and it's all done in the bright daylight. And there's this old lady that spider walks across the ceiling, just matter-of-factly in this psychiatric hospital. It's not a big part of the film, but all of a sudden you see this little lady spider walking on the ceiling. There's a big play with this giant tool that surgeons use in autopsies to cut people's heads off. Where you open it and it just snaps and it just lops a head off. So all this stuff is playing in this thing, and it's got one of the creepiest horror scenes ever put on film. And it's literally like 5 minutes of William Peter Blatty just shooting the scene down a hall. And you're watching this hallway shot in a hospital, which are, in these kind of movies, hospitals are always a little creepy anyway, because nobody's around and you're waiting for something to happen. Well, you're waiting for minutes for something to happen. And then when it does, it's one of the most shocking things. And it's not the goriest, but it's shocking. And all the religious icon stuff that he's putting in, you got Jesus' heads chopped off, Jesus' hands are bleeding in certain scenes, and it's all about losing faith and what's going on in the world. And there's an exorcism that happens at the end, and it's only in there because the studio said, we called this thing Exorcist 3, we got to have an exorcism, because that wasn't in the original script. And there's a whole documentary out there about the original footage versus what happened after the exorcism and all that. It's quite an amazing film. And
did he direct anything else?
Yeah, there's a movie called The Ninth Configuration.
Oh yeah,
with Stacy Keach.
Are you trying to tell us? Are you saying the filming was supernatural?
What do you mean the filming was? The film or?
The film is supernatural. Not
there are supernatural elements in the film. There's horror elements. There's this great dream sequence he does in heaven, where George C. Scott has a dream that he's up in heaven. And all the people that this Gemini killer have killed are in there, as well as people like Ewing. Patrick Ewing is in there as an angel. There's all
Patrick Ewing, the basketball player?
The basketball player, because William Peter Blatty was from Georgetown. He lived in Georgetown. So he has all this dream sequence, this weird, strange dream sequence.
I thought the guy from Dallas. What's his name?
R.J.R. Ewing.
No.
I think Hagman was in there. Yes, I think he walks through. There's other little cameos of people walking through this scene. But it's devastating because it's one of the little kids that gets killed by the Gemini killer talking to George C. Scott saying, why does this happen to me? I don't understand. And how George C. Scott is just breaking down. His character is just breaking down. Ultimately, things happen to his friend. the demon goes after his family at one point, but it's just enough creepiness to make you unsettled, and it's quite.
I gotta watch this.
It's
one.
quite good, and Brad Dourif and Jason Miller both are playing great as the manifestations of the demon.
Oh, Brad Dourif is great at playing creeps. I mean, he is like he's
so
a strange looking guy.
Miller, I think he really stole The Exorcist. What a tremendous performance he gave.
Yeah.
And
he's
he was
also
a young
and
priest.
Scott Wilson's in this as well. You know, Scott Wilson from now The Walking Dead, right? He played Ezekiel or whoever that old guy was that got his head chopped off. He plays a psychiatrist in this Exorcist 3. He's also in the 9th configuration with Jason Miller, with Stacy Keach. And it's just another weird, creepy psychiatric hospital for military people that William Peter Blatty. William Peter Blatty's pretty interesting. And he's got a nice...
He's a screenwriter, too. It isn't like he just wrote The Exorcist.
Right. But he's got a very interesting take on this film. And it's
How did that movie do, Ralph, when it came
I don't
out?
think it did well. It's one of these cult things. I don't think a lot of people saw it.
Yeah,
and I think part of it is because of the...
So poisoned the well.
The Heretic killed it. This is really the direct sequel to The Exorcist. It really is a direct sequel. And it should be watched because it's got some of the most brightly lit, creepy scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie. And it's quite amazing.
Check it out.
Hey, one thing about the original Exorcist, I don't think there's any currently released version of it that's the actual film that you saw in the 70s. Because they've made all sorts of little changes to it. It's sort of like the Star Wars films.
Yeah, he muddled with that. It's amazing.
The Exorcist has been altered and improved.
Look, then The Exorcist 4 came out and 2 directors. Paul Schrader had to go at it, and then the guy who did Die Hard 2, Rennie Harlan.
Yeah, Rennie Harlan.
Did 2 different versions of The Exorcist 4, which is kind of a prequel to the Max von Sydow character from the original Exorcist. But anyway, you should check out Exorcist 3. George C. Scott, he's got it's weird mannerisms in this, but he's just so powerful and so good that it's very watchable. And when you see this giant shear thing that snaps, it's crazy. So, and that was always, the medical stuff in Exorcist were the creepiest parts of The Exorcist. That whole medical scene where, Reagan's getting all examined. That was always the creepiest stuff. So this is like right in your face in a hospital. And it's good. So anyway, Exorcist 3, I think you should check it out. So,
well, great. I'm going to check it.
Hospitals are scary. One time I was working and I had to go, I was down at NIH and I had to travel from one part of the hospital way down into another area. And it was down in the basement and they didn't have lights down there.
The subterranean chambers down
there. Near the morgue.
So I was creeped out. I took my cell phone with me and I had to call IT. Well, it was an IT problem. And they couldn't leave. I certainly couldn't leave my station. And they were saying they couldn't leave their station, but I needed the information. I needed to get on the computer. My computer was frozen. So I had to go there. Oh my gosh. I was so scared. I called Sean. I was so scared.
They keep the monkeys down there too.
I wouldn't want to go anywhere near. Like in Halloween
I just try to stay away from hospitals.
Halloween Kills, it takes place in a hospital. And there are scenes literally where people are walking by rooms with dead bodies in them, right in the same level.
Yeah, it's like the coroner's thing has a glass door.
Right. It's
like a big glass window. They would never do that.
But even like all Halloween, all hospital movies that are horror movies are super creepy because they're always empty. And
because they can't afford the extras. Like Halloween 2.
Yeah. The skeleton crew. The skeleton crew in the hospital.
Right.
And it's sort of like there's like 2 lights on in the entire hospital in Halloween 2.
Well, that's not Exorcist 3. Everything's lit, but you check it out. It's wild. All right. So next week or next time, Debbie, this is the last true Yippee-Ki-Yay, bring it to the table. So
are you sticking with Forbidden Planet?
What's you already have your pick for next week. So next time we talk.
I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
It's Forbidden Planet.
Okay. So Dylan, what you do is you watch that film.
Okay.
Okay.
You can get it on Turner Classic Movie or HBO Max.
Very much.
And you're tapping right into the original intent of this show was to give millennials movies that we all grew up with and how you might react and vice versa. So,
the
Debbie,
original intent of this show is to give John a platform.
Well, that's not the original. That's what it's turned into.
It's all about John, your Uncle John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you know
and
what?
talk about Uncle John's band.
Such a narcissist.
Yeah. Listen, I want to say something else because I have a Facebook page. We do classic movies, and everyone was looking for suggestions. And one of the suggestions I made, and I recommend this, it's 1932's Island of Lost Souls with Charles Laughton. Very atmospheric, very creepy, and the makeup effects on the manimals, whatever you want to call them, still holds up today. It's just a very creepy, turn the lights off and get creeped out movie. I recommend it highly if you get a chance to see it.
You're not going to
Classic
recommend the Val Kilmer?
I highly recommend that one.
I recommend
Highly
the documentary about that movie.
Right.
It's a great documentary.
That is
all right.
I hear
Oh
that
my
was
God.
like the worst movie ever.
It's awful.
All right,
It's
but
awful.
also, now that Dylan's here, maybe we should have people smash that like button.
Yes.
Smash the subscribe
Dylan,
button.
tell people to smash the like button, will you?
Yeah. I'll try.
No, say
like,
it
say
to
it
the
now.
camera.
Smash the like button.
Smash it, subscribe, like it. You don't get stuff like this anywhere. Look at millennials. We got millennials now.
Well, one.
Well, one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Well,
One's better than none. All right.
one's alone.
All right, so next time we do Forbidden Planet, Debbie's
Yes.
pick, and then we start up the other Ron Robbins
And
again.
I anticipate we're going to have some guests too to break up our round.
Yeah, did you hear this one? Did you hear who we might get, John?
No.
Tommy from Friday the
Tommy
13th.
from Friday the 13th, Part 4.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
In the house.
working with him on another project.
Wow.
So.
And I said, I gotta have. He's like, hey, I don't know if you're familiar with me. I go, yeah, you were Tommy in Friday the 13th. Did you see it? And I go, yeah, I saw it in the theater. That was the last of the Friday.
I've never seen it, so I'll have to watch it.
Dylan, who are you bringing?
I can bring Lexi.
Nice.
Oh,
We're gonna throw her in here.
nice.
She's Gen Z, so we could get
Whoa.
Yeah, we don't need any more gens. All right,
all the way down the
Jesus.
line.
Look at, he's on one show. He's already got to, we need Gen Z now. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's the old man. He's the old man compared to Gen
Dylan,
Z.
Ralph won't even let you pick the movie you want to pick. So
I know.
cut
I
the
know.
crap, will you?
I also
Allison.
suggested to him that we should all watch everything that everyone brings up, and he shot me down.
Not in this
we've-
context.
We've had those discussions before.
We know that.
It's a
We know
lot
that.
of stuff to watch.
It's
that's
too much
why.
to watch. One is enough. I got to do one. So,
Yeah.
especially if you have more than one
I heard
podcast.
8 was enough.
What was
I'm
that?
Sorry?
8 is enough.
8 is enough to fill our house with love.
All right, everybody. All right. So, Debbie, next week, Forbidden Planet. Everybody have a good week. Dylan, thanks for joining us. I hope the audition
Yes,
went
sir.
well.
Greedo,
Now, can you
shot
tell me-
first?
What character is John doing right now?
Han Solo, right?
From which
Ooh.
version of Star Wars?
It's the ship that made the
I have
Kessel
no
run in less
idea.
than 12 parsecs. She's
I think
fast
that's
enough for
A
you,
New
old
Hope
man.
or the first one. I don't know.
May the
This
force
is
be
actually
with you.
Empire.
May the force be with you. Right. All right. I didn't know werewolves had Nords.
North.
Werewolf's got nards. You got to see it. You got to see it.
All right, guys. Have a good week. Stay safe.
You too.
Talk
Happy
to you soon.
Halloween.
Happy
Happy
Halloween.
Halloween, everybody.
Halloween.
Enjoy.
Don't eat any razor blades.